61 teams to go. My road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. The UMass Minutemen are up, and this is a team that for many years has just not been very good. To put it plain and simply, they've been at the bottom of the college football landscape for so long, and people in the state of Massachusetts that like to see, or that want to try to see this team improve and get better. Can 2022 be the year where the Minutemen finally start to make that climb back up college football? Or is Massachusetts going to have another year where we're going to be talking about, is this the worst team in 2022? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, that means I'm doing your favorite teams. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when that video gets uploaded. And the fans of the UMass Minutemen out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, anything of the sort, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to hear with what you guys have to say. No power rankings for FBS independent teams, so we're going to move on. Just kind of talk about this record, and they were bad last year. And the Minutemen have been bad for quite some time. This was possibly, well, besides UConn, the worst offense among these 7 teams in the FBS independent realm. Barely 300 yards a game, on average around 299.7 yards per game. So just at that 300 mark, which you want to be at the 400 mark. Just under 3 football fields a game. Offense has got to get better fast. And 16 points per game. So offensively, again, not a lot to write home about. Same thing defensively. You can make the case that this was the worst defense ever. Or not ever, but you can make the case that this was one of the worst defenses in the nation last year. 484 yards allowed with 43 points allowed per game. That's just a lot, right? And again, you guys aren't telling, or I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. UMass, not a very good football team, but let me give you some names that are on this team. So Don Brown is that head coach, and UMass is actually the 4th ranked team. I just looked before this video. The 4th ranked team in terms of returning production. And the reason that I had to look that up was because I couldn't really find a lot of names that were leaving this team. However, here are some that I think were key contributors last year that they may miss in 2022. Backup quarterback Tyler Lytle is gone, had 394 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Nothing real crazy from Tyler Lytle, but you do lose his production. Jared Kasari, again, sorry if I pronounced the names wrong, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, was the 4th leading rusher, my apologies, on this team last year. In the wide receiver room, Trey Petway is transferring out, had 217 yards, but no touchdowns. And then Eric Collins is gone as well, 186 yards and a touchdown last season. You also lose a defensive lineman, Tyshawn Holmes. And Holmes, fairly solid player, only 12 tackles for them last year, but in my opinion was one of their better defensive linemen last year. Avian Pay is gone as well. He had 52 tackles a season ago, so that's a lot of production being lost. Defensive backs, Bryson Richardson is gone. I think only had around 9-something. Here you go, 11 tackles, but 2 big losses on the defensive back position. And that is Bryce Watts, who had 43 tackles, 4 pass defended, and 1 interception. And then Cody Jones, gone as well. He also had 43 tackles, had a sack in there as well, and 2 passes defended a season ago. So you got to try to replace all that production. But not a lot was lost off of this UMass team. However, talent-wise, again, still is not the best football team. Quarterback Brady Olson is coming back. 1,145 yards, had 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions a season ago. Was not a very prolific rusher on 35 attempts, only 28 yards. But you do return his experience back at the quarterback position. But there's a lot to improve on in his game, right? However, one of the more exciting running backs in the country, and doesn't get a lot of the headlines because he plays for UMass, but he was well over 1,000-yard rusher last year. Ellis Merriweather had 1,138 yards and 5 touchdowns a season ago. I know that's not like eye-popping stat line, but for the UMass Minutemen, that's a phenomenal player. By far their best offensive player, in my opinion. Getting him back is huge. You also have a solid backup in Kayron Adams there as well. He comes back. Leading receiver Rico Arnold had 461 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's coming back, as well as Melvin Hill. And then Josiah Johnson, who surprised me with the stat line of 6 rushes for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns, but through the air had 11 catches, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns did Josiah Johnson. When you look at the defensive side, Ezewike coming back, as well as Marcus Bradley, Tyson Watson, some guys coming in for this team. At the linebacker position, Gerald Johnson had 81 tackles, was the leading tackler last year with a sack and a half. Deshaun Ross is coming back, was the second leading tackler on this team. And then a plethora of defensive backs coming back for this team as well. Josh Wallace, Dante Lindsay, Tayrai Powell, Tanner Davis, and you have a lot of transfers coming in. Jermaine McMillan, Jalen Farrell. There are a couple Michigan transfers coming in as well. This is the defensive back group that could be fairly decent in 2022. But taking a look at the UMass schedule, no conference games for Independent, so we are just going to jump straight into it. On the road at Tulane, on the road at Toledo to open up the year. And those are going to be 2 pretty hard games. I know Tulane went, 2-10 last year? But that's a Tulane team that I think well underperformed and is going to get better this upcoming season. I know Tulane is going to get better. In fact, my American Athletic predictions start tomorrow, which I'll say again later. But Toledo's another team here that is a solid player in the Mid-American Conference. Toledo's a team that wouldn't shock me in the slightest if they were to go win the Mid-American Conference. It's going to be another hard challenge there for UMass. Stony Brook, UMass lost to Rhode Island last year, and Stony Brook kind of along the same level as Rhode Island in the FCS level, if not maybe a little bit better. Again, my knowledge on the FCS is not great, but Stony Brook, solid team in the FCS. They played Oregon last year, so they've played a big-time opponent before. UMass, again, not necessarily big-time opponent. That's not what I'm trying to say, but they've played an FBS opponent before. UMass has got to watch out for that game, plain and simple. On the road at Temple, I don't think Temple is going to be very good either, but still a game that UMass can't take lightly. On the road at Eastern Michigan, that can be a sneaky team in the Mid-American Conference, so watch out for them there. Liberty, I've talked about Liberty before. If Charlie Brewer can play like he did in 2019 with Baylor for this Liberty team, Liberty is going to be a very dangerous football team in 2022. I know Malik Willis isn't that starter, but Charlie Brewer is, and he can still be dangerous. Buffalo was not that great a season ago, but a program that is still probably going to be hanging right around bowl contention this year. Then you got a couple winnable games on the schedule for UMass. New Mexico State and UConn are on the board. And, again, New Mexico State, UConn, teams that are trying to improve, but 2 teams that, again, were just bad last year. Now, UConn bringing in a lot of talent, has a new head coach as well. New Mexico State also has a new head coach, probably not bringing in as much talent, but still some solid players on that roster. Going to be interesting to watch both of those games as UMass has to go play them back-to-back. On the road to Arkansas State, that can be a fairly solid team in the Sun Belt this year. However, Arkansas State has not been very good for the past couple of seasons. Maybe the Red Wolves can turn it around in 2022. Still a hard game when you have to go on the road and play a team in the Sun Belt. On the road at Texas A&M is by far the hardest game on this Minutemen schedule. Just don't even count on them being anywhere close to in that game. And that home against Army to cap off the year. Army is another team that, while they run the triple option style, very unique style nowadays, Army's going to win their fair share of games this year. So I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict a team's record. If the game is in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game's in orange, I still don't see you winning. But, hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. Yellow, you're 50-50. High upset potential games. Games in yellow-green. Games that you should win. Watch out for the team on the other side of the ball, though, in games in green. I have you winning. No games of the green variety in here. And a lot of the games in orange, you could put in the red. Like, I'd be fine if you put Army in the red. I'd be fine if you put Liberty in the red. I'd be fine if you put even a team like Tulane or Toledo in the red. I mean, UMass, let's face it, not a very talented team. Yes, they are returning a lot of experience, especially, in my opinion, what's definitely in the top 50 of running backs this year in Ellis Merriweather. I think he's pretty good, and I think he can win them a game or two this year by himself. But with that being said, there's just a lot of there's a lot of questions about this UMass team, and with Don Brown being that head coach, maybe UMass can start to find more than one or two wins this year. But I really just don't see it. I mean, Texas A&M on that schedule, that's not going to be a win. If you want to look for wins for this UMass team, Stony Brook, New Mexico State, UConn, I think are kind of going to be easily your three best options on the schedule, because every other game here has its challenges and has quite a bit of them. And for that reason, I have UMass going 1-11 again in 2022. I believe up to this point, it's my lowest projected team this year. I don't think I projected anyone to go worse than 2-10. And today, you saw three of them where I had them at 2-10 or worse. And UMass 1-11. Look, I do think this team is going to win a game somewhere down the line. Every team just has that good day where everything seems to click and falls into place and things like that. But with that being said, UMass can go 0-12. I'm not high on this team. I don't think they're going to start getting better soon. 3-9, I think, is that ceiling, because I think there are 3 winnable games on the schedule. Other than that, there are games on the schedule that UMass is going to have a rough time even competing in, especially that Texas A&M game, the Army game, the Liberty game. It's going to be another rough year for the fans of the Minutemen, I'm projecting. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, everything like that. Be sure, hey, share my videos as well. But anything you can help support the channel does mean a lot to me. And hey, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys starting tomorrow. We're going to start my American Athletic prediction. So I'll see all you then. Goodbye.